All right, welcome everyone. Today is Wednesday, the 10th or the 20th of November, 2024, and this is the Cluster API office hours. Cluster API is a subproject of Kubernetes SIGs, and as such, we follow their meeting guidelines, which essentially means please treat each other as you would expect to be treated, or explicitly so, please be kind to each other. And if you'd like to talk, please raise your hand and I will call on you. And the raise hand button is usually under the reactions button on Zoom, depending on which interface you are using. So at the beginning of our meetings, we like to make a little time for new community members or new meeting members to introduce themselves. So if that sounds like you, I would invite you to either raise your hand or unmute yourself and say hi to everybody.
Hi, I'm new here. I'm Marek Weber. I live in Czechoslovakia. I work for Red Hat, and I'm part of ACM copy team in Red Hat.
Awesome. Well, Dobry den and welcome aboard, Marek.
Thank you. Dobrý den.
All right, I'm not seeing anyone else unmute or hands raising. So we will move on to the next part of our meeting agenda, which is the open proposal readout. I think we only have two right now. Is anyone here to speak about the in-place updates or the working group no pro proposal?
No pros here.
Cool. Please go ahead, Tilo.
Great feedback on the proposal PR. We have some traction there. I still need to work in Johannan's latest feedback from today. It's great to see that traction. And what's almost even greater is to see people actually engaging in discussions on what the working group should cover later on. So we clearly demonstrate that there's a need here. I personally really welcome that. So I'll make another push tomorrow and work in the changes proposed. And I already made the proposal way more general. Fabrizio pointed out that we're trying to describe a solution and we should rather set goals, and that's great feedback. And I basically made this a lot more general. And I have more feedback from Johanna. And Johanna is very, very exact with terminology, which is amazing. That's kind of exactly what the proposal needs. So I'm super happy of all of the traction that we're getting, and looking forward to get the working group off the ground later this year.
Awesome. Thank you for the update. And yeah, it looks like there has been an impressive amount of discussion on that topic. I was at KubeCon last week, but I will give it a read this week. Thank you to Thilo and Fabrizio and Johanna and everyone who's putting in time there. It's great to see. Okay. I don't know. I guess no updates on the in-place updates proposal. I will note we did talk about in-place updates at the SIG meet and greet. Perhaps that's a topic for later on during our discussion, though. All right, moving on to our regular discussion topics. So Marek, you are up first with this topic about multi-tenant environments and CAPI controllers. So please take it away.
Okay, so our use case is to distinguish which namespaces are targeted by which controller instances. We need to define or instruct certain controllers to target only specific set of namespaces. There is namespace option, but there is only one namespace enabled at this time, and we want to extend this to multiple namespaces. And the second is a complementary feature to enable controller to ignore certain namespaces. So I created two PRs solving these two issues, which were defined, I think, 2 months before. But my approach wasn't accepted. So I'd like to know how to make it better, or why is my approach not the best one as can be created, or where are the another possibilities to solve these issues.
All right, yeah, I see some responses there on the PRs. Does anyone want to I don't know, I guess Fabrizio, I see you putting some related issues here. I don't know. I saw Fabrizio and Stefan both had comments here. Do either?
Yeah, mostly Stefan commented, but I can add something on top of it. So
I agree. I'm totally new on this project, so I will be glad
that's fair.
for any comments.
So first of all, thank you for the PR for raising this topic. So first consideration is that if we look at what we are stating in our copy book, and I'm trying to link it in the agenda, is that we do not support running multiple instances. And there is a lot of background behind this statement, because originally in the past we were supporting running multiple instances of controllers, but we ran into a lot of issues, mostly due to the fact that you can have only one CRD. One version of the CRD, you can have many versions of the controller, and this is a mess. Whenever you get many controller and you try to upgrade, and the upgrade implies changes to your CRD, you end up in a bad corner, where you have some controller running with the CRD they expect, some other running with the CRD they do not expect. I see a question raised. So, Mohammed.
Okay, so but let's assume the versions are same. So you have like running 1.8 version, but you run it twice. Like you have two instances, but both are the same version. So the versioning, it shouldn't be an issue in this case, because both would be in the same version. So the CRD will be the same. There will not be a CRD difference between both. Is it correct? Or what is your thoughts about this?
I think that this is not a generalized assumption. So if folks do multi-tenancy, they want to have, I don't know, 3 customers, and they want to upgrade customer at different times, because each customer, you cannot bring them together. So if you are lucky and you are in a multi-tenant environment where you can enforce the constraints about everyone on the same version, you don't have this issue. But that wasn't the only issue that we had. There was many other complications, and we tried to describe it there. And probably if you go back to the PRs or the time where we did this, and it goes back by 2 or 3 years. We had a lot of complexity in cluster cattle in order to manage multiple versions of the same provider, etc., etc. Because, yeah, it is complex. We tried this part, and we basically decided this is not something that we want to do. However, we also decided that, yeah, even if we don't do this, we do not support and we do not test it, okay? maybe someone want to have fun or have less constraint, require less flexibility, etc., etc. So we sort of defined this very high level contract where we say we support the namespace flagging controller. We support a thing that is called the watch filter.
Or maybe like I
But
can
support is considered best effort. So this is the point. And I think that behind best effort, it is where the complexity exists. Because
The
yeah.
watch filter is working on controller level, as I discovered, and I think that Joe Speed has a good comment to me that the basic suggestion is to use the field selector on API server level, and it's better for performance because the watch filter as a thing which is working on controller level must work with plenty of messages. So the server level or API server level looks better for performance. So I think that
yeah, but
yes, I understand.
sorry if I interrupt. If
No,
you
no, no problem. Go ahead.
if kindly can give all the context. So the issue is that none of these is implemented correctly. For instance, if you set the namespace filter, which is the simplest one, is not going to work as expected because, for instance, airbags are not going to be scoped down to your namespace. Or, I don't know, we have controllers like the extension controller that no matter of the namespace flags, they look for extension config all across the cluster. So it is implemented best effort, and we know that it has defects. And most important, what happened is that over time, so way after this generic declaration we support it, we started working on optimizing copy performance. And that means that now we have very sophisticated cache configurations all around every controller, all around the code base. We use different different clients with different cache configuration, trying to strike a good balance between memory usage and performance. And none of them taking into consideration these flags. So my point is the following. If we want, so first of all, I personally don't think we should go down back the path of multi-tenancy support because of the experience that we did in the past. If we want to do this, we have to do properly. So what is the goal, what we want to achieve, and how we make it work properly with all the complexity that is in the caches and in controller like the extension config, etc., etc. So that's why it is not only adding a flag, it is making the flag work consistently with everything else we have. It's complex. Unfortunately, Stefan is not here. Stefan, I know that has a stronger opinion than mine and a much more better example than me is in mind. The point is, this is not a feature that we are going to support or to test. So how much do we want to invest? And what are the guarantees that we are going to offer? Because yeah, we add a flag, then someone will start opening an issue, etc., etc. So it seems to me that Yeah, I think that the general comment that came from Stefan and I just gave +1 on this idea is that if we want to do this, let's first, okay, are we really sure that we want to support multi-tenants? Yes. What kind of multi-tenants are we going to support? How do we validate it? How do we test it? Because it is easy to add a flag, but then how you make sure that your flag does not have a regression? That's the part where we usually struggle. And then I shut down, I shut up, and I leave Mohamed and Mike to speak in.
All right, so I think Mohammed had his hand up next, and then I've got a response as well. So go ahead, Mohammed.
So I just want to give some part of like more context on the use case. So the idea is the provisioner cluster that is being used to provision cluster is also managing its machine and machine pool using CAPI. So the idea here is to let the CAPI instance that is running in the provisioner cluster use its own CAPI to manage its own machine and machine pool, and then another CAPI instance be used to provision more managed clusters. So this is the main use case we are targeting here, and don't expect we have, like, I'm not expecting we have two different versions in order to, have this CRD problem addressed for now, but as Brianna was saying that like we need to make it working right. So if it's somehow like you guys can point some, in the maybe in the BR or in the issue that where is the missing pieces of this work, in order to have it work, or maybe we can start like continue discussions here or make a proposal for it. That will be like, the more way to go, Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. So this is extremely complicated, right? And I think some of the things that Fabrizio and Stefan are calling out that I totally can empathize with is, like there is a solid use case for this. Mohammed and Marek are describing it, but it's extremely complicated for us to set that test up in the upstream to kind of like test this one configuration, right? And I with my Red Hat on, even though it's behind me, I know this is a feature that Red Hat would like because this is a configuration that we, would like to get into. But I think like in terms of next steps and kind of motivating this in the community to even like say we would want to support it, or even if we got to the point of making some sort of testing for it, I think if we don't have an enhancement for this already, I think we need an improved enhancement to describe what is happening here so that we can even agree on like what it is the feature that we're trying to fully support, and what is that going to look like where will it be tested, how will we support it as a community. And I think if we could answer some of those questions, and also if we're willing to show up and do the maintenance work around this as well, that's going to give more confidence. So I think like just patching the code is one thing, but I think we need to give a clear impression of what the roadmap is here and how it will be supported going forward, because this represents a big change, and this project is under a lot of pressure as it exists already, to kind of keep up with the maintenance and everything. So I think, me personally, just listening to this discussion, like I think it would be good if we could get more supporting documents around this feature that we can all agree on and be happy about going forward. So any other comments or questions? Or I mean, unfortunately, Mark, this doesn't give you like a quick solution today. But that I guess this is a big community. We cover a lot of complicated software, and we need to be very clear about what we're doing and what we're supporting and everything.
Okay, I understand.
Cool.
I'd like to help to community, yes, and I would like to forward it somehow.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mark. I think the next step, I would say maybe look in the enhancements at our template that we have there, and maybe we should just move this to an enhancement and start talking about this as like a proper feature in that respect. And then, we can have a more focused discussion on the enhancement about like, what is the scope of this? How are we going to test it? How will we maintain it? If I'm understanding, I think that would help things out here. I don't know, Fabrizio, does that sound reasonable to you?
I think that first we should start by use cases, and if as a community we want to go down again the path of supporting multi-tenancy and how we avoid to fall back into the same problem that we had in the past. So we have to, okay, we are doing this. Maybe in the past we tried to do for all the possible use cases and it was too much. Maybe we have to try to scope it down, but until I there is an idea or an agreement at high level, what kind of multi-tenancy support are we going to do? I think that's so where we are going, and then we think about how.
Yeah. So like Marek, I think if you look at the enhancement template that we have for cluster API is very similar to, the Kubernetes enhancement template. It might even be the same. Maybe the best thing to do is just focus on the user stories part of that and come up with like 3 or 4 really good user stories, or just a couple really full user stories. And then we can use that as like kind of the base point to start from.
Yeah, and also let me say the other angle of this is technical, but it is it is not a detail. So I understand that we don't want that we want a controller that reconciles only a subset of objects. That's the easy part. But what about, I don't know, caches? Do we care if in the cache we have all the objects, or do we want to filter them out? So we also keep a memory consumption under control, which is the next step, because I run 10 instances of my controller. If all the instances are going to cache everything, I'm going to blow up I'm going to use a lot of space for in not an ideal way. So what we do with caches, what we do, I don't know, with RBAC, because I want to run different instances of controller, but every instance I'm giving them a service account that has granted to read everything. Is that correct? Not correct? So yeah, it goes way and what use case are we supporting? I don't know. We only filter by namespace, or we want, because there is also an issue which is asking for adding a label selector as a flag to our parameter. This will be a total mess to support in combination with the cache, for instance. So do we support mixed versions and stuff like that? So we have really to nail that. The problem is complex. This is why in the past we made the painful decision to drop it. I remember implementing and then deleting a huge chunk of coding custom cattle upgrade for this. So it was not fun reverting all this code. But we did this for a reason, because it was the complexity of maintaining and the issue we were facing were simply too much. But yeah, I'm open to have the discussion. Please don't. I try to explain why it's not a flag. It is where we're going with multi-tenancy. Currently, it's not supported. So if we have to revert this statement, there should be agreement around where we are going.
Yeah, really, really appreciate your wisdom here, Fabrizio. And yeah, I think unfortunately, Marek and Mohammed, we're now caught in the place where I think, if we think this is a good feature and we think there's good motivation for it, I think we should really we need to really state, you know, like Fabrizio's mentioning here, what the user cases are, so that we can start to get a really good understanding of, you know, what are the boundaries of this problem, what changes we need to make to achieve it, and what technical questions do we need to answer as well. And we haven't even gotten into the maintenance side of it yet, but I think that's where, you know, we as Red Hatters can maybe show up a little more and say, hey, look, we can make a stronger commitment to help support, you know, these features that we'd like to see in there as well. So I think really we need to continue the discussion with deeper details now. And I think that would be really appreciated from you, Marek.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Anything else people would like to say on that topic? And I really appreciate the depth of conversation here. I realize this is it's not easy. Okay, we will move on to the next topic now, which looks like Sunat announcing CAPI 1.9 beta. So please, Sunat. Perhaps Sunat is not here.
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay,
I
cool. Please go ahead.
double muted. Sorry. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, yesterday we released CAPI v1.9.0 beta 1. So all the providers, please uplift it and give us feedback. Yeah, that's all. So thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Sunat. And yeah, I feel really bad because CapK is still working on our 1.8 release, but boy, we got to keep up with progress here. Okay, so next topic, Julio, you've got some discussions, contributions process. So please.
Yeah, just to ask you, I'm new to this and wanting to contribute. Where should I post discussions? For example, I just started reviewing the docs and I saw a few things that could be improved. I also did the code spaces files, so everything works with GitHub code spaces, not only on my machine. Things like that I think might be useful. Should I discuss that in GitHub discussions on Slack here? Should I open a ticket or just file a PR? Like what's the overall process of contribution? And if we have that written somewhere, because that might be good.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if anyone else wants to respond to this, but I think probably issues on the cluster API repo would be like the first place I would go with this stuff. And of course, our Slack channel is always great for starting discussions. And we have a mailing list as well, you know, which is sometimes a little better than the
Really?
Slack channel. Yeah, because people might miss it in the Slack channel. But you know, I don't know, Fabrizio, did you have some thoughts here, or Christian, did you have some suggestions?
Yeah, one thought. So issues is a good thing. There are also issues marked, especially with help or help wanted, as label. We don't have, or we don't really have one marked as good first issue. But help wanted would be a start, I would guess.
No, I mean, like more of what's the process. If I see something, should I open a ticket, a discussion, ping someone on Slack? Like so first open the ticket and then the PR that, right? That should be enough.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, if I may add, usually what we do is that we triage issues when we agree on the idea, we add a triage accepted label of them. Let me say, when the issue is good enough or there is enough agreement to work on it, we add a triage label to senior. But let me say that's you know, folks sometimes just open PRs without even any issues. So we try to accommodate everyone. But you know, if the topic is a little bit complex, or I highly suggest to try to sort out things in the issue or in a proposal or whatever before writing code, because things can, you know, when you start
Yeah.
discussing with the community, you get so many valuable issues that then the solution usually is
Exactly.
change. So
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the case because the feature I'm working on is dedicated hosts. And I'm not sure for like when we have replicas and have like dedicated hosts, we need to set a policy which replica goes to each role host and perhaps even store that. I'm not sure if there's any other feature like that where hosts are not like the same, but they need to be assigned to specific machines. In this case, the dedicated hosts. So
yeah, I think that the starting point is to define what do you mean by dedicated host, because
yeah, the feature from AWS EC2 is a little bit different than Azure, the possibilities, but on AWS you can get a dedicated host, so you know how many CPUs are in that host, so you can comply with licensing. That's basically the case. And also, there's another feature which is dedicated instances, which is not the same as dedicated hosts, that guarantees that only your instances are going to run on the same host. Ideally, users of Cluster API, I believe, should be able to leverage both features as they would like. But then they would need to say, I have these 3 dedicated hosts and these 3 database pods that needs to run on them. And yeah, will it be the 3 to the one that's free, 1 for each? What's the, like this logic? I'm not sure where it would fit and where to store this all.
yeah,
But again, that's, I'm just working on it. It's just started on this, but.
yeah, I think considering that this as a implication that is as a dimension, which is the infrastructure provider you are using, I think that having a short document, and we did this, maybe we did this for some proposal. I will look up one for example, is to
Please.
Yeah, basically what we did in some proposal in the past, if I'm not wrong, is that folks did a sort of research on what kind of feature provided the provider offers, and they went through a sort of comparison. AWS offered these, Google offered, GCP offered these, Oracle offered these, and so we basically tried to figure it out, a common denominator, and then this common the solution was designed about around the common denominator across providers. So let me say, I'm not an expert on this topic, but it seems to me that if you want to do something in core Cluster API, the prerequisite is that it should work with at least the major cloud providers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
Cool.
Fabrizio, you said it great. And I think, Giulio, like in the previous topic, we were discussing about multi-tenancy. I think a good advice for anyone who wants to bring new ideas and new changes to the Cluster API community is, you know, open an issue in the Cluster API repo. Describe your problem, describe the user stories around what you want. And I think this is a theme that we're seeing today, at least. It really helps the discussion if we can talk about, you know, what is the feature you're trying to implement? What is the scoping of that? And then if you can bring that early in the process, by opening an issue or writing a document that you could share with the community, then you'll get the expertise of the community to say, hey, maybe this is a way to do it that's going to be easier than this other way, or maybe there are design considerations to think about. So I think if we can start with the user stories, if we can start with scoping, features and changes, that is really helpful. And then, to your other question, absolutely open an issue on the Cluster API repo, bring it to an office hours meeting, put it on the agenda here. Feel free to post it in the Cluster API Slack to get awareness from other people. I think having a durable chain of artifacts around an idea that you're trying to propose is super helpful. So I would say those are great places to start. In general, the community here is pretty reactive to issues and whatnot that get opened.
Cool. Thanks. I'll go that way.
Cool. Appreciate it, Julio.
I'm adding an example proposal where we made a sort of analysis for spot instances.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
Thank
Awesome.
you, Fabrizio. All right. Are there any other questions about Julio's topic? All right. I'm not seeing any hands going up. So we'll move on to the ad hoc topic that I just added, which is a KubeCon retrospective. I just wanted to give a little love here for the talk that Christian and Vince gave, which was a deep dive into the Cluster API and a roadmap. Sheepishly, I will admit, I was watching Jack Francis give the SIG auto scaling talk at that time. So my apologies to Christian and Vince. I missed your talk. But I also linked the slide deck that we used for the meet and greet during the Kubernetes contributor summit earlier in the week. And I thought that was a fun discussion. We ended up talking a lot about the in-place updates, and we also talked about etcd resiliency as well. So it was a fun group. Christian did a great job representing us, and yeah, I just wanted to kind of give a round of applause for him. And it was definitely nice being able to get together and talk about things again. And if anybody has questions about KubeCon or whatever, happy to hear them. All right, I'm not seeing any hands going up or people unmuting themselves. So I think we don't have any provider updates and we don't have any feature. Oh, wait, Christian is giving us a quick provider update here in real time. Seems like V has an update for us.
Thanks. I will fix the note shortly. Just quick, we adopted V1 Beta 0 and just today V1 Beta 1 of CAPI and CAPV, and also did releases for that. So yeah, that's already it.
Awesome. Great to hear, Christian. And thanks for the update. So unless anyone else is going to update the agenda, that will bring us to the end of things. Fabrizio, I see you have your hand up, please.
Yeah, two quick topics. I will add them later to the agenda. So first of all, I want to give a huge shout out to the release team. Things are going smoothly and up to schedule, and I think that we talk a lot about feature, but if I look at Cluster API, one of the best feature that we have is our capacity to really to keep up with a predictable release schedule, and this is thank you to the release team that is doing a great job. So this is super great. And second, I want just to continuing on the release. Folks, please help test stuff. Just a reminder that next week we have a code freeze for the 1.9 release, and that almost all the changes for the improvement in status are in. I will try to make a short demo maybe next week or the week after, but yeah, I kind of like how new conditions are showing up. We're surfacing a lot of detailed information that people can use to build on top. But yeah, it was a monumental work, and we really need helps from folks looking into stuff and how they look, and if we can improve them, etc., etc. So thank you again, release team. Please, folks from provider helps, give help to figure it out. Just to give us a slightly different angle to this. In this release cycle, apart from new condition, we merged two very significant features. One is a huge improvement to how we do node drain, and not only on how it works, because now is not blocking anymore, it's much more efficient, but also it surfaces a lot of more details. But let me say, this was a basically total refactor of this area of the code. And so, yeah, when you test Cast API, please take a look at this area. And second is that we replaced the cluster cache tracker with a new cluster cache. And this is used everywhere in Cluster API. It is the mechanism that we use to assess workload clusters. And also in this case, it was a huge improvement. We are cache creation is not blocking anymore. We got a signal about the health of the remote connection. We surface this in condition, etc. But also in this case, we basically rewrote from scratch a core component of Cluster API, and this is where the help of the community of testing is really appreciated.
I mean, that sounds worth celebrating to me. And if it weren't, 1:45 here, I'd definitely go lift a glass or something. Perhaps my European and Asian fellows can predate us on that. Thank you, Fabrizio. I really appreciate the shout outs, and personally, thank you for all you do to kind of like make sure that we're staying honest here and giving out the attention where it should be. I think it makes this community really cool, and I appreciate it personally. So thank you. All right. I think that brings us to the end of things, unless anyone would like to add anything else ad hoc. Going once. Oh, I will read Christian's note here. This is the 6th release team that we've had now in 2 years of Cluster API. And I think as an open source community, it's rare to see that kind of engagement and that kind of turnover. And it's really healthy in my mind as well. So yeah, I mean, I'll add in with everyone else to kudos and thank yous to the release team for everything that you do. Okay, going once, going twice. That's a meeting. See you all next week, and thanks everyone for coming out.